I thought love was supposed to stay. I didn't know it could leave without saying goodbye. He promised me forever, then disappeared when I needed him most. What I discovered after he was gone shattered my heart completely. If you listen to this story until the end, you will cry. Before going to a head, please subscribe my channel and press the bell icon for getting notification. Now we come to the story. Most people think love announces itself loudly. Fireworks, confessions, grand gestures. But the kind of love that destroys you later, that one arrives quietly. So quietly that you don't even realize your life has already changed. I met Ion on a day I don't remember for anything special. No celebration, no tragedy. Just an ordinary afternoon that was supposed to disappear into the background of my life like every other day. If I had known that day would one day replay in my mind every single night, I might have paid more attention. I was standing in line at a small bookstore cafe, irritated because the power had gone out and the place was hot and noisy. I was already late, already stressed, already convinced the world was working against me. He was behind me. I noticed him because he apologized when he bumped into me, even though it was clearly the crowd's fault. His voice was soft, careful, the kind of voice that sounds like it's afraid of taking up too much space. I turned around, ready to brush it off, and that's when I saw his eyes. Not dramatic, not striking in the way movies exaggerate, just kind and tired, like someone who'd lived a lot of life internally, even if the world didn't know it. We didn't flirt, we didn't exchange numbers, we didn't even talk much beyond polite sentences about the heat and the broken generator. But when I moved to a table, he asked if he could sit across from me since all the other seats were taken. I said yes. That was it. That was how it began. We started seeing each other there, not intentionally at first, just coincidence. Same time of day, same corner table, same two twinks. At some point, coincidence stopped being honest. We started saving the seat. We started waiting. We started talking. About nothing at first. Books, work, random memories that didn't seem important enough to protect. Ion never talked about his family, not directly. He'd mention them in fragments, like unfinished sentences. I didn't push. There was something fragile about the way he existed, like too much pressure might make him disappear. He listened more than he spoke. When I laughed, he smiled like it was something rare he wanted to remember. When I was quiet, he never rushed to fill the silence. I didn't realize how deeply that mattered to me until later. Weeks passed, then months. One evening, when the cafe was closing early because of rain, we walked together without planning to. The streets were wet and glowing with reflected lights. We stopped under a broken awning while the rain poured down. I remember shivering, and before I could say anything, he took off his jacket and placed it around my shoulders. I protested. He ignored me. "You're cold," he said, like that was the end of the discussion. I don't know why, but that simple sentence stayed with me longer than any compliment ever had. That night, after we parted ways, I realized something terrifying. I was already in love with him. Not the exciting, cinematic kind, the slow kind, the kind that sneaks into your bones and makes itself comfortable. But Ion never crossed a line,
never flirted openly, never touched me beyond brief, careful moments. It was as if he was holding himself back from something he desperately wanted. Finally, one night, after a long silence between us, I asked him why. "Why are you always so careful?" I said, trying to sound casual. He looked at me for a long time before answering. "Because I don't want to hurt you." I laughed, thinking he was joking. "I'm not that fragile." He didn't smile. "You don't understand," he said quietly. "I hurt people I love." That should have scared me. Instead, it made me want to understand him more. We became inseparable after that. Long walks, shared meals, conversations that stretched until the city slept around us. He started opening up in pieces, never all at once. He had grown up poor. He had taken responsibility too young. He had learned early that loving someone meant losing them, one way or another. "I don't believe in happy endings," he told me once. "I believe in borrowed time." I told him he was wrong. I told him love could be safe. I told him I wasn't afraid. I wish I had listened to him instead. The night he finally kissed me, it wasn't dramatic. We were sitting on the floor of my apartment, backs against the couch, sharing cheap food and old music. There was laughter, comfort, a quiet closeness that felt earned. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. I didn't. The kiss was gentle, almost hesitant, like he was afraid of breaking something sacred. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. "If I start this, I won't know how to stop," he whispered. "Then don't stop," I said. That was the night I gave my heart without conditions. For a while, love felt kind. We were careful with each other, protective, honest. He made me feel seen in ways I didn't know I had been invisible before. But there was always a shadow behind his eyes. Sometimes he'd go quiet for days, then return like nothing had happened. Sometimes he'd hold me too tightly, like he was memorizing the shape of me. Sometimes he'd say things that sounded like goodbye wrapped in affection. "You deserve someone better," he'd whisper when he thought I was asleep. I never took him seriously. I thought love could fix whatever he was afraid of. Then he started getting sick. At first it was small things: fatigue, missed meals, a cough that wouldn't go away. He brushed it off, joked about being weak. I believed him. I shouldn't have. One night, he collapsed in my kitchen. I remember the sound of his body hitting the floor, the panic in my chest, the way time fractured into useless pieces. The hospital lights were too bright, too cold, too honest. The doctor asked questions I couldn't answer. How long has he been feeling unwell? Has he lost weight recently? Does he have a medical history? I looked at Ion, pale and unconscious, and realized how much of his life I didn't know. The diagnosis came quietly. Terminal. No dramatic announcement, just a calm voice explaining timelines, treatments that would only slow the inevitable. Words like manage and prepare. I felt like the room was shrinking. When Ion woke up, he already knew. "I told you," he said softly, when I broke down beside his bed. "I hurt people I love." I told him we would fight it, together. He shook his head. "I don't want to be remembered like this." From that day on, he began pulling away. Not cruelly, gently, like someone easing a knife out of a wound instead of ripping it free. He stopped staying over, stopped planning ahead, stopped talking about the future. When I confronted him, he held my face in his hands and cried, "I can't let you watch me disappear. I want every memory you have of me to be alive, not dying." I begged him to stay. He kissed my forehead like a blessing. Then, one morning, he was gone. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence. I searched for him everywhere. Hospitals, friends, old addresses, nothing. Weeks passed, then months. I learned how heavy unanswered love can become. Then, 1 year later, I received a letter, handwritten, shaking hands,